The gymnasium smelled like industrial cleaner and teenage sweat. Owen Merrick stood near the double doors, his Distinguished Service Cross pinned carefully to his blazer, the same blazer he'd worn to his wife's funeral 3 years ago. It still fit, barely. His shoulders had narrowed with age, his chest had caved slightly inward, and his hands had developed a tremor he couldn't quite hide. But the medal gleamed under the fluorescent lights, and for a moment he let himself believe it still meant something. Career Day at Lincoln Middle School. His grandson, Tommy, had asked him to come. 12 years old, braces, cowlick that refused to cooperate. "Grandpa, you were in the war, right? The big one? Can you come talk about it?" Owen had hesitated. He didn't talk about the war. Not really. Not the parts that mattered. But Tommy had looked at him with those wide, hopeful eyes, the same eyes Owen's daughter had once had before life beat the hope out of her. And he'd said yes. Now he stood in a gym full of strangers, waiting. A fire chief demonstrated CPR on a dummy. An accountant handed out pamphlets about tax season. A software engineer, young, confident, ponytail, talked about the future and innovation with the kind of enthusiasm Owen hadn't felt in decades. The kids looked bored. Owen didn't blame them. Then it was his turn. Tommy waved at him from the third row. Owen walked to the front, his knee clicking with every step. 64 years old, and his body was a catalogue of old injuries, shrapnel scars, a rebuilt collarbone, nerve damage in his left hand. The war had ended 38 years ago, but his body still fought it every morning. "Good morning," Owen said. His voice was steady, deeper than it used to be. "My name is Owen Merrick. On June 6, 1944, I was a glider pilot with the 82nd Airborne. We landed behind enemy lines in Normandy, France, just after midnight. Our job was to secure key bridges and causeways before the beach landings began at dawn." A few kids looked up. Most didn't. Owen continued. He kept it simple. He didn't mention the sound a glider makes when it's falling too fast, or the way the wood splintered when they hit the ground, or the smell of burning fuel and blood. He didn't mention Private Eddie Calhoun, who'd been sitting 2 feet away when a bullet turned his head into mist. He didn't mention the 3 days he'd spent hiding in a church, listening to German patrols outside, praying to a God he'd stopped believing in years before. He just said, "We did our job. A lot of good men didn't come home. I was lucky." He touched the medal on his chest. "This was given to me for actions during that operation. It's called the Distinguished Service Cross. It's supposed to represent valor, courage under fire." A hand went up. A girl in the front row, maybe 13, with purple streaks in her hair. "Yes," Owen said. "Did you, kill people?" The room went silent. Owen took a breath. "Yes." "How many?" "I don't know." "Did you feel bad about it?" Owen looked at her. Really looked. She wasn't trying to be cruel. She was just curious. Honest. The way kids are before the world teaches them to lie. "Every day," Owen said quietly. The girl nodded, satisfied. The teacher, Ms. Brennan, young, thin, nervous energy, and stepped forward. "Thank you, Mr. Merrick. That's very, let's give him a round of applause." Polite clapping. Scattered. Brief. Owen nodded and stepped back. Tommy gave him a thumbs up. Owen tried to smile. Afterward, as the kids filed out for lunch, Ms. Brennan approached. She had the kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Mr. Merrick, can I speak with you for a moment?" "Of course." She glanced around, making sure they were alone. Then she lowered her voice. "I appreciate you coming today, I really do, but I'm not sure the content was entirely appropriate." Owen frowned. "What do you mean?" "Well, some of the things you said, about killing, about violence, it's a lot for these kids to process. And honestly," she hesitated, "the medal, I'm not sure it's helpful to glorify that kind of thing. War, I mean. Especially now, with everything happening in Central America, the Cold War. A lot of parents are trying to teach their kids about peace, about alternatives to violence." Owen stared at her. "I'm not saying you didn't do something important," she added quickly, "but that was a long time ago. The world's different now. Kids need different role models, people who build things, not, you know. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. Owen looked down at the medal on his chest. The bronze gleamed dully under the gym lights. Suddenly it felt heavy, heavier than it ever had. "I understand," he said quietly. Miss Brennan smiled, relieved. "Thank you for understanding. And really, thank you for your service. It's just, that medal, it's just not relevant anymore." She walked away. Owen stood alone in the empty gymnasium, the echoes of bouncing basketballs and squeaking sneakers still lingering in the air. He reached up and unpinned the medal, held it in his palm. The metal was cold, not relevant anymore. He slipped it into his pocket. Owen didn't go home. He drove through Tacoma's industrial district, past shipyards and warehouses, past blocks of boarded-up storefronts and chain-link fences. He wasn't looking for anything in particular. He just didn't want to go back to the empty house on Fir Street, where his wife's ghost still sat in the kitchen and his daughter never called. He turned onto Pacific Avenue and slowed. There, wedged between a pawn shop and a laundromat, was a small building with a faded sign, Rosie's Diner. The windows were soaped over. A for sale sign hung crooked on the door. Owen pulled over. He didn't know why. Maybe it was the way the afternoon light hit the glass. Maybe it was the memory of a diner in Normandy, Le Coq Rouge, where he'd eaten his first real meal after 5 days of fighting. Maybe it was because he had nowhere else to go. He got out of the truck. The door was unlocked. Inside, it smelled like grease and mildew. Booths lined one wall, their vinyl cracked and splitting. A long counter ran the length of the room, stools bolted to the floor. The kitchen was visible through a pass-through window. Ancient stove, rusted grill, refrigerator that probably hadn't worked in years. It was a disaster. Owen loved it. He walked slowly through the space, his footsteps echoing. Dust motes floated in the shafts of light. He ran his hand along the counter, felt the grooves worn into the formica by decades of elbows and coffee cups. A place like this had stories. He found a phone number on the for sale sign and called from a payphone outside. The realtor sounded bored. "Rosie's Diner? Yeah, it's been empty for 2 years. Owner died. Family wants it gone. You interested?" "Maybe." "How much?" $35,000. Firm. Owen did the math in his head. His pension, his savings, the life insurance from Ellen's death. He could do it. Barely. "I'll take it," he said. The realtor paused. "You haven't even seen the inspection report." "I've seen enough. Buddy, it needs work. A lot of work. The wiring's shot, the plumbing's a nightmare, and I'm pretty sure there's black mold in the walls." "I'll take it," Owen repeated. The realtor sighed. "Your funeral." It took Owen 3 weeks to make the place functional. He worked alone, dawn to dusk, stripping old wiring, patching drywall, scrubbing decades of grime off every surface. His hands bled, his back screamed. He didn't care. He renamed it Merrick's Haven. He didn't paint a fancy sign, just stenciled the name on the window in white letters. Simple, honest. The menu was even simpler. Coffee, toast, soup. That was it. He wasn't trying to compete with anyone. He wasn't trying to build an empire. He just wanted a place to exist. A place where the medal in his drawer didn't matter, where career day didn't matter, where the ghosts in his head could maybe, finally, shut the hell up. He opened on a Monday in early November. Cold rain hammered the streets. Owen unlocked the door at 6 a.m. and turned on the lights. No one came. He poured himself a cup of coffee and sat at the counter. Waited. 7 a.m. Nothing. 8 a.m. Nothing. At 8:47 a.m. the door opened. A woman stepped inside, mid-30s, maybe younger. Hard to tell. She wore a denim jacket 2 sizes too big, jeans with holes in the knees, and sneakers held together with duct tape. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She had a black eye, mostly healed, and a split lip that wasn't. She looked at Owen. Owen looked at her. "You open?" she asked. Yeah." She glanced around. "Just coffee?" "Coffee, toast, soup." "How much?" 50 cents. Coffee's free if you sit for more than 10 minutes. She blinked. What's the catch? No catch. She studied him, suspicious. Then she shrugged and sat at the counter. Owen poured her a cup. She wrapped both hands around it like she was trying to absorb the warmth. They didn't talk. Owen didn't push. He just refilled her cup when it got low. After 20 minutes, she spoke. You a vet? Owen glanced at her. What makes you say that? You got the look. What look? Like you've seen some shit. Owen almost smiled. Yeah, I'm a vet. Which one? World War II. She whistled softly. Damn, you're old. Thanks. She laughed, a short, sharp sound. I didn't mean it like that, just that was a long time ago. Feels like yesterday, Owen said. She nodded like she understood. Maybe she did. I'm Cassie, she said. Owen. Thanks for the coffee, Owen. Any time. She left a crumpled dollar bill on the counter and walked out into the rain. Owen picked up the bill, smoothed it out, folded it carefully and put it in the register. His first customer. Cassie came back the next day, and the day after that. She never stayed long, 30 minutes, maybe an hour, but she always sat in the same spot at the counter, always ordered coffee, always left $1. Owen didn't ask questions. He learned early that people came to Merrick's Haven because it wasn't the kind of place that asked questions. A week later, a man walked in. Tall, rail-thin, with a scraggly beard and a canvas jacket that smelled like cigarettes and rain. He ordered coffee and sat in the corner booth as far from the door as possible. His name was David. Owen learned that much. David had been in Korea. He didn't say much else, but he didn't have to. Owen recognized the look in his eyes, the same look he saw in the mirror every morning. Then came Marianne, late 50s, heavy-set, with kind eyes and hands that shook when she held her coffee cup. She'd been a nurse at Tacoma General for 30 years. She didn't say why she wasn't anymore, but Owen could guess. Burnout, PTSD, maybe both. Then a kid, 17, maybe 18, skinny, with a shaved head and a nose ring. He sat in the booth by the window and didn't order anything, just stared out at the rain. Owen brought him coffee anyway. I didn't order this, the kid said. On the house. The kid looked at him wary. Why? Because you look like you need it. The kid took the cup. His hands were shaking. His name was Jordan. Owen didn't learn that until the third visit, when Jordan finally spoke more than 2 words. He'd been kicked out of his house. His parents didn't approve of his lifestyle. He'd been sleeping in shelters, under bridges, anywhere he could find. Owen didn't pry. He just poured coffee and listened when Jordan needed to talk. By mid-November, Merrick's Haven had a strange, quiet rhythm. It wasn't busy. Some days, only 2 or 3 people came in. But those 2 or 3 people stayed. They sat. They drank coffee. They didn't have to explain themselves. Owen realized something. He wasn't running a cafe. He was running a refuge. And for the first time since Ellen died, since his daughter stopped calling, since that teacher told him his medal didn't matter, for the first time in years, Owen felt like he had a purpose. It arrived on a Thursday in late November. Owen was wiping down the counter when he heard the mail slot rattle. An envelope slid through and landed on the floor. He picked it up. No return address, just his name, typed neatly, Owen Merrick, Merrick's Haven, Pacific Avenue, Tacoma, WA. He opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper, handwritten. The ink was faded, the handwriting shaky, but the words were clear. Mr. Merrick, my name is Julian Roche. You do not know me, but I know you. I was 10 years old when you and your men came to my village in Normandy. You landed in a glider in the field behind the church of Saint-Étienne. You were there for 3 days. On the 3rd day, you shot my brother. His name was Emile. He was 14 years old. You killed him in front of me. I have spent 39 years looking for you. Now I have found you. I will be in Tacoma in 2 weeks. We need to talk. Julian Owen's hands shook as he read it again, and again. You shot my brother. The coffee cup on the counter seemed impossibly loud. The rain on the windows, the hum of the refrigerator, everything was too loud. Owen closed his eyes, and he was back there, in the church, in the rubble, in the dark. He saw the boy. He saw the rifle. He saw the choice he made. And for the first time in 39 years, Owen Merrick understood. The war had never ended. It was just finally catching up. Owen didn't sleep that night. He sat in the small apartment above Merrick's haven, the letter spread on the kitchen table in front of him. He read it until he'd memorized every word, every shaky line of ink. The handwriting looked old, not just aged, but weary, like the hand that wrote it had been carrying something heavy for a very long time. "You shot my brother." Owen poured himself a glass of whiskey. His hands still trembled. He'd stopped drinking years ago. Ellen had made him promise, but tonight the promise didn't matter. Nothing mattered except the boy's face in his memory. Emile Roche. Owen hadn't known his name. Not then. He'd just been a shape in the darkness, a figure moving through the rubble of the church with something in his hands. Owen had been hiding in the bell tower for 3 days. No food, no water, just him and Corporal Danny Reeves, who'd taken shrapnel to the leg and couldn't walk. They'd heard German patrols every night sweeping the village, searching for survivors. On the 3rd night, they heard footsteps in the church below. Owen had looked down through a gap in the floorboards, saw the figure. Small, young, moving carefully between the pews, carrying something. "Kid," Danny had whispered. "Just a kid." But the kid had a rifle. Owen had watched him for 30 seconds, maybe a minute. Time moved differently when you were that scared. The boy had moved toward the altar, toward the stairs that led up to the bell tower. Owen had raised his M1 carbine, sighted down the barrel. His hands hadn't shaken then. "Don't," Danny had whispered. "He's just a kid. He might not even know we're here." But Owen had seen the rifle, had seen the way the boy moved, purposeful, hunting, and Owen had made a choice. One shot. The boy had dropped. They'd waited in silence for an hour, expecting Germans to flood the church. No one came. At dawn, they'd climbed down. The boy was still there, face down in the aisle, 14 years old, maybe younger. The rifle beside him was old, rusted, probably didn't even work. Danny had thrown up. Owen had just stared. They'd left at first light and never spoke of it again. Now, 39 years later, Owen sat in his kitchen and finally let himself feel it. The guilt, the shame, the terrible, crushing weight of what he'd done. He'd killed a child who might have been trying to protect his family, a child who might not have even known American soldiers were hiding in the church. Owen drank the whiskey in one burning gulp and poured another. Outside, Tacoma slept. The rain had stopped. The streets were empty and black and silent. Owen looked at the letter again. "I will be in Tacoma in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. 14 days until the past walked through his door." The next morning, Owen opened Merrick's haven at 6, just like always. He moved through the routine mechanically, brewing coffee, setting out cups, wiping down the counter. His body knew what to do, even when his mind was somewhere else. Cassie arrived at 7:15. She looked worse than usual. The bruise around her eye had deepened to a sickly yellow-green, and she was limping slightly. She sat at the counter without a word. Owen poured her coffee. "Rough night?" he asked quietly. She laughed. "Bitter. Sharp. You could say that." Owen didn't push. He'd learned that about Cassie in the past few weeks. She'd talk when she was ready. Not before. She wrapped her hands around the cup and stared into the steam. "You ever do something you can't take back?" she asked suddenly. Owen's chest tightened. "Yeah. How do you live with it?" "I don't know," Owen said honestly. "I'm still trying to figure that out." Cassie looked up at him, really looked. "What'd you do?" Owen hesitated. He'd never told anyone except Danny, and Danny had drunk himself to death in 1967. But something about the way Cassie asked, like she genuinely needed to know, like she was drowning and looking for proof that someone else had survived the same water, made him speak. "I killed someone," Owen said, "during the war, someone who didn't deserve it." Cassie didn't flinch. "On purpose?" "I thought I had to. I thought it was him or me, but I was wrong. And now I have to face it." Cassie nodded slowly. She didn't offer comfort. Didn't say it wasn't his fault. She just sat there, holding her coffee, two broken people in a broken place. I stayed, she said finally. Owen frowned. What? You asked what I did. I stayed. With him. My boyfriend. Whatever. Ex-boyfriend. He hit me the first time 2 years ago, said he was sorry, said it would never happen again. I believed him. She touched her bruised eye. I kept believing him. Every time. And now, she trailed off. Now I don't know how to leave. Why not? Because I don't have anywhere to go. No money, no family, and because, she swallowed hard, because part of me thinks I deserve it. Owen's throat tightened. You don't. How do you know? Because nobody deserves that. Cassie laughed again, but this time it sounded like crying. You don't even know me. I know enough. They sat in silence. Outside, the city woke up. Cars passing, distant sirens, the low rumble of a garbage truck. The apartment upstairs. Owen said suddenly. It's empty, just storage right now, but there's a bed, a bathroom, a hot plate. It's not much, but I can't afford rent, Cassie interrupted. I'm not asking for rent. I'm asking you to help out here. Mornings, couple hours a day. Washing dishes, wiping tables, whatever you can manage. Cassie stared at him. Why? Because everyone needs a safe place. Her eyes filled with tears. She wiped them away quickly, angry at herself. I don't know. Think about it, Owen said. Offer stands. Cassie nodded, then stood. She left $2 on the counter this time instead of $1. At the door, she paused. Owen? Yeah? Thank you. Then she was gone. David came in around 9. He ordered his usual, black coffee, no sugar, and sat in the corner booth with a newspaper he didn't read. Owen had learned not to disturb him. David needed the silence more than the coffee. But today, David spoke first. You hear about the Marines? He asked, not looking up from the paper. Owen walked over. What Marines? Beirut. Barracks bombing. 241 dead. Owen felt the floor tilt slightly. He'd heard about it on the radio a few weeks ago, but hearing it again, seeing David's hollow eyes, made it real in a way it hadn't been before. Jesus, Owen muttered. They were sleeping, David said. Just kids, sleeping in their bunks. Truck bomb drove right through the gate and he made a soft, explosive sound with his mouth. Gone. Owen slid into the booth across from him. You thinking about Korea? David finally looked up. His eyes were red-rimmed. I'm always thinking about Korea. What happened there? David was quiet for a long time. Owen didn't rush him. I was a radio man, David said finally. Chosin Reservoir, winter of 1950, coldest goddamn place I've ever been. We were surrounded. Chinese came at us in waves, thousands of them. We held for 17 days. Barely. He paused, swallowed. There was this kid in my unit, PFC named Ricky Salazar, 18 years old, from Texas. Always smiling, always cracking jokes, even when we were freezing to death. On the 16th day, we got hit hard. Mortar fire. Ricky took shrapnel to the chest. I was right next to him. He looked at me and said, "Tell my mom I wasn't scared." Then he died. David's voice cracked. I didn't tell his mum. I came home and I didn't tell anyone. I got a job at the shipyard, got married, had 2 kids. And the whole time, I'm carrying Ricky around in my head. His face, his last words. I can't... He stopped, breathed. I can't get rid of him. Owen nodded. I know. Do you? Yeah, Owen said quietly. I do. They sat together in the booth, 2 old soldiers carrying their ghosts. You ever think about ending it? David asked suddenly. Owen's heart clenched. Yeah, once or twice. What stopped you? Owen thought about it. I don't know. Stubbornness, maybe. Or guilt. Felt like I owed it to the people who didn't make it. Like I had to keep going because they couldn't. David nodded slowly. That make it easier? No, Owen admitted, but it keeps me breathing. David almost smiled. Yeah, I guess that's something. Jordan showed up just after noon, soaked from the rain. Owen handed him a towel and a cup of hot coffee without a word. Jordan took both gratefully and collapsed into the booth by the window. You okay? Owen asked. Jordan shrugged. Define okay. You're alive. Barely. Owen sat down across from him. Jordan looked worse than usual. Paler, thinner, dark circles under his eyes like bruises. When's the last time you ate? Owen asked. Yesterday. Maybe the day before. Owen stood and went to the kitchen. He came back with a bowl of soup and a thick slice of toast. Eat. Jordan stared at the food like it might disappear. Then he picked up the spoon and ate. Slowly at first, then faster, like he was afraid Owen would take it back. Thank you, he said between bites. Don't mention it. Jordan finished the soup and leaned back, exhausted. Why do you do this? Do what? This, the free coffee, the food, letting people like me hang around. Owen considered the question. Because somebody should. That's it? That's it. Jordan looked out the window at the rain. My parents think I'm going to hell. They said God doesn't love people like me, that I'm broken. Owen's jaw tightened. Your parents are wrong. How do you know? Because I've seen hell, Owen said quietly. And it's got nothing to do with who you love. Jordan's eyes filled with tears. He wiped them away quickly. I don't know what to do. I can't keep living like this, sleeping in shelters, getting chased out of parks, eating out of dumpsters. I'm so tired. Owen reached across the table and gripped Jordan's shoulder. You stay. What? The apartment upstairs. There's room. You can stay there. Help out around here in exchange. Couple hours a day, sweeping, dishes, whatever. You get a bed, a roof, and 3 meals. Jordan stared at him. Why would you do that? Because you need it, and because I've got the space. I'm not a charity case. I'm not offering charity. I'm offering work. There's a difference. Jordan looked down at his hands. They were shaking. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Jordan took a shaky breath. Yes. Okay. Yes. Owen nodded. Good. You can move in tonight. Marianne arrived in the late afternoon, just as the sun broke through the clouds for the first time all day. She looked exhausted, the kind of exhaustion that came from years, not hours. She ordered coffee and sat at the counter. Long day? Owen asked. Long life, Marianne said with a tired smile. Owen poured her coffee and set it down gently. You want to talk about it? Marianne looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. I was a nurse, she said. 32 years at Tacoma General, ER mostly. I loved it. The chaos, the adrenaline, the feeling of pulling someone back from the edge. I was good at it. What happened? I got tired, she said simply. Tired of watching people die. Tired of doing everything right and still losing them. Tired of going home and scrubbing blood out from under my fingernails. She stared into her coffee. There was this girl, 17, car accident, drunk driver hit her head on. She came in and she was gone, brain dead, but her heart was still beating. We kept her on machines for 2 days while her parents decided whether to pull the plug. Marianne's voice cracked. I held her hand the whole time, talked to her, told her it was okay to let go. And when they finally turned off the machines, I was there. I watched her heart stop on the monitor. And I just broke. She wiped her eyes. I walked out of the hospital that day and never went back. Didn't resign. Didn't call. Just left. My supervisor called me for weeks. I never answered. I couldn't. I couldn't go back to that place, to all that death. You did everything you could, Owen said gently. Did I? Marianne looked at him. Or did I just give up? You survived, Owen said. That's not nothing. Marianne laughed bitterly. Surviving isn't living. No, Owen agreed. But it's a start. They sat in silence. Outside, the sun dipped below the buildings, casting long shadows across the street. This place, Marianne said finally. It's good. What you're doing, it matters. I'm just pouring coffee. No, she said firmly. You're giving people a place to breathe. That's more than coffee. Owen didn't know what to say to that, so he just refilled her cup. That night, after everyone had gone and Owen had locked up, the phone rang. He almost didn't answer. It was nearly 10, and phone calls that late were never good news. But something made him pick up. Hello? Owen Merrick? The voice was unfamiliar. Male, accented, French. Owen's stomach dropped. Yes. This is Julian Roche. Owen sat down hard in the nearest chair. I got your letter. Good. Then you know why I'm calling. You said 2 weeks. I'm already here in Seattle. I'll be in Tacoma tomorrow. Owen's mouth went dry. Tomorrow? Yes, I want to meet to talk. About what happened? Yes. Owen closed his eyes. I don't know if I can... You owe me this, Julian interrupted. His voice was hard, cold. You took my brother. You owe me the truth. I know, Owen said quietly. I know I do. Tomorrow, noon, your cafe. I'll be there. The line went dead. Owen sat in the dark, the phone still pressed to his ear, listening to the dial tone. Owen didn't go upstairs. He couldn't face the empty apartment, the silence, the weight of what was coming. Instead, he sat at the counter of Merrick's Haven, a bottle of whiskey in front of him, and tried to prepare himself for tomorrow. But how do you prepare to face the ghost of a boy you killed? He thought about calling someone. His daughter, maybe. But they hadn't spoken in over a year, and he didn't even know if she'd answer. Tommy? No. He couldn't drag his grandson into this. There was no one. Owen poured another drink. He thought about Danny Reeves. Wondered what Danny would say if he were here. Probably something stupid and brave, the way Danny always did. Just tell him the truth, Merrick. What else can you do? But the truth was messy. The truth was, I thought he was going to kill me. I thought I had no choice. I was scared and 19 and I pulled the trigger, and I've been carrying it ever since. Would that be enough? Owen didn't think so. At midnight, he heard footsteps on the stairs. A moment later, Cassie appeared in the doorway. Couldn't sleep, she said. Me neither. She sat down next to him, saw the whiskey, didn't comment. You okay? She asked. No. Want to talk about it? Owen looked at her. This woman who'd stumbled into his cafe 3 weeks ago, bruised and broken and barely holding on, this woman he barely knew. Someone's coming tomorrow, Owen said. Someone from my past, from the war. What does he want? The truth. About what? About the worst thing I've ever done. Cassie nodded slowly. You gonna tell him? I don't know. What are you afraid of? Owen thought about it. That he'll see me the way I see myself. And how's that? Like a coward. Like a murderer. Cassie reached over and took his hand. Her grip was firm, warm. You're not a coward, Owen. A coward doesn't open a cafe for broken people. A coward doesn't offer strangers a place to stay. A coward doesn't sit here at midnight drinking alone because he's too afraid to face tomorrow. Then what am I? You're someone trying to make up for something, and that's not nothing. Owen's throat tightened. I don't know if that's enough. Maybe it doesn't have to be, Cassie said. Maybe all you can do is show up and tell the truth. And whatever happens after that, happens. Owen nodded. He didn't feel better, but he felt less alone. Thank you, he said. Cassie squeezed his hand once, then let go. Get some sleep, Owen. You're gonna need it. She stood and walked back upstairs. Owen sat in the dark, the whiskey untouched, and waited for dawn. Noon came faster than Owen wanted. The cafe was quiet. Cassie was upstairs. Jordan was in the back, washing dishes. David and Marianne had left an hour ago. Owen stood behind the counter, wiping the same spot over and over, watching the door. At 12:03 it opened. The man who walked in was tall, thin, with silver hair and deep lines carved into his face. He wore a wool coat and carried a leather satchel. His eyes were sharp, cold blue. Owen knew immediately this was Julian Roche. The man stopped just inside the door. He looked around the cafe slowly, taking it in. Then his eyes landed on Owen. Mr. Merrick. Owen's voice came out rough. Mr. Roche. Julian walked forward and stopped at the counter. He set the satchel down carefully. Thank you for seeing me, he said. His English was good, but the accent was thick. I didn't think I had a choice. Julian's mouth twitched, almost a smile. No, you didn't. Owen gestured to a booth. Sit, I'll get coffee. No coffee, just talk. Owen nodded. He came around the counter and sat across from Julian in the booth. They faced each other like soldiers across a trench. I've been looking for you for a long time, Julian said. How did you find me? Veterans records. Old unit rosters. It took years. But I found you. Owen swallowed. What do you want from me? Julian leaned forward. I want you to tell me why you killed my brother. The question hung in the air like smoke. Owen looked down at his hands. They were shaking again. He had a rifle, Owen said quietly. I thought he was 14 years old. I know. He wasn't a soldier. I know. Then why? Julian's voice rose slightly, not shouting but strained, like a rope pulled too tight for too long. Why did you shoot him? Owen forced himself to look up, to meet Julian's eyes. Because I was scared, because I'd been hiding in that bell tower for 3 days with no food, no water, listening to German patrols outside. Because my friend was wounded and dying, and I thought if your brother found us, he'd call them. I thought we'd be executed. So you executed him instead. The words hit like a punch. Yes, Owen whispered. I did. Julian reached into his satchel and pulled out a photograph. He slid it across the table with deliberate slowness. Look at him, Julian said. Owen didn't want to. Every instinct told him to look away, to close his eyes, to run. But he owed Julian this. He owed the boy this. He looked down. The photograph showed 2 boys, young, smiling, arms around each other's shoulders. The smaller one had messy dark hair and a gap-toothed grin. He was laughing at something, his whole face lit up with joy. That's Emile, Julian said. That's my brother. That picture was taken 3 months before you killed him. Owen couldn't breathe. The boy in the photograph looked so alive, so real. Not a shape in the darkness, not a threat. Just a kid, just a boy who should have grown up, fallen in love, had children, lived a life. He loved soccer, Julian continued. His voice was softer now, but somehow that made it worse. He was terrible at it, but he loved it anyway. He'd play in the street with the other kids until Maman called him in for dinner. He was always late, always filthy, always smiling. Oh, Owen's vision blurred. He wanted to be a teacher, Julian said. After the war, he wanted to teach history. He used to make me sit and listen while he practiced his lessons. I thought he was so boring. Julian's voice cracked. I'd give anything to hear one of those boring lessons now. I'm sorry, Owen said. The words felt pathetically inadequate. I'm so goddamn sorry. Sorry doesn't bring him back. I know. Sorry doesn't give my mother back her son. She died 5 years ago. She never stopped grieving, never stopped lighting a candle for him every Sunday, never stopped wondering what kind of man he would have become. Owen pressed his palms against his eyes. He was crying now, openly, and he didn't care. Why are you here? He asked. Why now? After all these years? Julian was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was tired, ancient. Because I need to understand, he said. I've spent 39 years hating you, imagining you as a monster, as some evil thing that took my brother from me. But monsters don't open cafes for broken people. Monsters don't cry. So I need to know, are you a monster, or are you just a man who made a terrible mistake? Owen lowered his hands. His face was wet, his eyes red. I don't know what I am. I just know I've been carrying your brother with me every day since it happened. I see his face when I close my eyes. I hear the shot. He stopped, swallowed. I killed a child. Nothing I do will ever make that right. No, Julian agreed. It won't. They sat in silence. Outside, rain began to fall. Soft at first, then harder. The sound filled the cafe like white noise. Tell me about that night, Julian said finally. All of it. I need to hear it from you. Owen took a shaky breath. He'd never told this story, not fully, not to anyone. But Julian deserved the truth. All of it. We crashed just after midnight, Owen began. June 6th, 1944, D-Day. I was a glider pilot with the 82nd Airborne. We were supposed to land in a field east of Sainte-Mère-Église, but we came in too fast. Hit trees. The whole glider came apart. Half the men died on impact. He paused, steadied himself. Me and Corporal Danny Reeves, my co-pilot, We survived. Danny took shrapnel to the leg. Bad. He couldn't walk. We heard German patrols immediately. They were sweeping the area, looking for survivors. We knew if they found us, we were dead. Owen's hands trembled on the table. He pressed them flat. We ran. Well, I ran. I carried Danny. We found the church. Saint-Étienne. The doors were open. We went inside and up to the bell tower. It was the only place to hide. Julien listened without interrupting. His face was unreadable. We stayed there for 3 days, Owen continued. Danny's leg got infected. He was feverish, hallucinating. I kept him quiet the best I could. At night we'd hear Germans outside, voices, footsteps, trucks. Once they came into the church, we held our breath, didn't move. They left after a few minutes, but we thought we were dead. He swallowed hard. On the 3rd night, we heard someone in the church again. It was dark, maybe 2 a.m. I looked down through a gap in the floor and saw a figure, small, moving between the pews, carrying something. A rifle, Julien said quietly. Yes, I saw the rifle, and Owen's voice broke. Danny whispered, "It's just a kid." But all I could think was, if he finds us, he'll call the Germans. If he calls the Germans, we're dead. Danny's dead, I'm dead. So I raised my rifle and I aimed, and He couldn't finish. The memory was too vivid. The weight of the rifle, the boy in his sights, the choice. I pulled the trigger, Owen whispered. 1 shot. He fell. We waited for an hour, expecting Germans to come. They didn't. At dawn, we climbed down. He was still there, face down in the aisle, 14 years old. The rifle next to him was old, rusted. It probably didn't even work. Julian's jaw tightened. Danny threw up, Owen said. I just stared. We left at first light, made it to Allied lines 2 days later. We never spoke about it again. Danny died in 1967, drank himself to death. I think he was trying to forget. I've been trying to forget for 39 years. But I can't. I see your brother every day. They sat in the heavy silence. Rain drummed against the windows. I was there, Julian said finally. That night, in the church. Owen's head snapped up. What? I was 10 years old. I was hiding in the rubble near the altar. Emile told me to stay hidden while he kept watch. He said he'd protect me. Julian's voice was barely above a whisper. I watched you shoot him. I watched him fall. I wanted to scream, but I was too scared, so I just hid, like a coward. You were a child, Owen said. So was Emile. The words landed like stones. After you left, Julian continued, I stayed with him until morning. I held his hand. It got cold. I didn't understand why he wouldn't wake up. I kept shaking him, telling him Maman would be angry if we were late for breakfast. Owen buried his face in his hands. My mother found us at dawn, Julian said. She screamed. I'd never heard her scream like that. My father had been killed by the Germans 2 months earlier. Emile was all she had left. And then he was gone too. I didn't know, Owen said. I swear to God I didn't know there was another boy. I didn't know he was trying to protect you. Would it have changed anything, if you'd known? Owen thought about it, honestly. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. I was 19 and terrified, and I made a choice in half a second. I've spent 39 years wishing I'd made a different one. Julian reached into his satchel again and pulled out a small, worn notebook. He set it on the table. What's that? Owen asked. Emile's diary. He wrote in it every day. My mother kept it after he died. When she passed away last year, she left it to me. Julian opened the notebook carefully, like it might disintegrate. The pages were yellowed, the ink faded. He flipped to a page near the end and turned it so Owen could see. The handwriting was childish, looping, rushed. I can't read French, Owen said quietly. I'll translate, Julian said. He took a breath. June 5th, 1944. Everyone says the Americans are coming tomorrow. Maman is scared, but I told her I will protect her and Julian. I took Papa's rifle from the cellar. It doesn't work, but maybe the Germans won't know. Tomorrow I will go to the church and keep watch. If the Americans come, I will help them. I will be brave like Papa. Julian closed the notebook. He thought you were on the same side, he said. He was going to help you. Owen couldn't speak. His throat had closed completely. Tears ran down his face, and he didn't wipe them away. He wanted to be brave, Julian whispered. He wanted to be like our father. And instead, he died in the dark, shot by the people he was trying to help. Owen finally found his voice. What do you want from me? Punishment. I'll give it to you. You want me to suffer? I've been suffering for 39 years. You want me dead? I've thought about it. More times than I can count. Just tell me what you want and I'll do it. Julian studied him for a long time. His eyes were wet now too. I want you to tell me one thing, Julian said, and I want the truth. Anything. If you could go back, if you could live that moment again, would you still pull the trigger? Owen closed his eyes. He thought about it, really thought about it, about the fear, about Danny dying next to him, about the rifle in the boy's hands, about the split-second choice. I don't know, he said finally. I want to say no. I want to say I'd make a different choice, but I was so scared, and I thought I had to survive. I thought... He opened his eyes. I don't know if I'd have the courage to make a different choice, and that's what I hate most about myself. Julian nodded slowly. At least you're honest. It's all I have left. Another long silence. The rain had slowed to a drizzle. Somewhere outside, a car horn honked. Life continuing, indifferent to the wait inside this small cafe. I came here to hate you, Julian said finally. I spent 39 years imagining this moment, imagining what I would say, what I would do. I thought I would scream, hit you, make you feel every bit of pain I've felt. Owen didn't move. I wouldn't stop you. I know. Julian looked out the window. But now that I'm here, I'm just tired. I'm tired of carrying this rage. I'm tired of letting it poison everything. My marriage failed because of it. My children barely know me because of it. I've spent nearly 40 years as a ghost, haunted by another ghost. So what do you want? Owen asked. Julian turned back to him. I want to let it go, not forget. Never forget, but let it go. Stop letting it consume me. How? I don't know. Julian's voice cracked. Maybe by forgiving you. Owen stared at him. What? I don't know if I can, Julian continued. I don't know if it's possible to forgive something like this, but I know I can't keep carrying this hate. It's killing me. It's been killing me for 39 years. Owen shook his head. You can't forgive this. You shouldn't. I don't deserve it. Maybe not, Julian said. But maybe forgiveness isn't about what you deserve. Maybe it's about what I need. And I need to stop hurting. They sat across from each other, two old men bound by tragedy, separated by an ocean and a war and 4 decades. Then Julian did something Owen never expected. He reached across the table and took Owen's hand. I forgive you, Julian said. His voice was steady, but his hand trembled. Not because it makes what happened okay, not because you deserve it, but because I'm choosing to let go of the hate. I'm choosing to remember my brother with love instead of rage. Owen's whole body shook. He gripped Julian's hand like a drowning man gripping a rope. His voice broke. I don't know what to say. Say you'll remember him, not as a mistake, not as a ghost, but as a boy, as Emile, as someone who mattered. I will, Owen promised. I swear to God I will. Then that's enough. They sat like that for a long time, holding hands across the table. 2 enemies bound by grief. 2 survivors trying to find peace. Finally, Julian released Owen's hand and stood. He gathered his things, the photograph, the diary, his coat. Will I see you again? Owen asked. I don't know, Julian said honestly. Maybe, maybe not. But I'm glad I came. So am I. Julian paused at the door. You're a good man, Owen Merrick, not because of what you did in the war, but because of what you're doing now. This place, these people, my brother would have approved. Then he walked out into the rain. Owen sat alone in the booth, staring at the empty space across from him. He felt hollowed out, raw, but also, somehow, lighter. like he'd been carrying a boulder on his back for 39 years and someone had finally helped him set it down. The door to the kitchen opened. Cassie emerged, tears streaming down her face. "You heard?" Owen asked. She nodded. "All of it." Jordan appeared behind her, then David, who must have come in through the back, then Marianne. They'd all been listening, bearing witness. Owen expected judgment, expected disgust, expected them to see him the way he saw himself, as a man who killed a child. But instead, Cassie walked over and pulled him into a fierce hug. "You did the right thing," she whispered, telling the truth, facing it. Jordan hugged him next, then Marianne. Then David, who'd never hugged anyone in his life, wrapped his thin arms around Owen's shoulders and said, "You're not alone." Owen broke down completely, sobbed into their arms, let himself feel the weight of 39 years of guilt and grief, let himself feel their compassion, their acceptance, their love. And for the first time since that night in the church, Owen Merrick felt like maybe, just maybe, he could forgive himself. That night, Owen hung the photograph of Emile behind the counter, right above the coffee maker where he'd see it every day. He didn't hide it, didn't explain it to everyone who asked. He just said, "That's Emile. He was 14 years old. I knew him during the war." The regulars didn't press. They understood. Merrick's Haven was a place for stories, for ghosts, for the weight of the past. Cassie moved into the apartment upstairs permanently. She called a lawyer about getting a restraining order against her ex, started going to therapy twice a week, started smiling more. Jordan enrolled in community college, started taking night classes, made friends, started believing he had a future. David started talking about Ricky, not just to Owen, but to others, to anyone who would listen. He said the name out loud, Ricky Salazar, and let the memory live instead of fester. Marianne brought medical supplies to the cafe, started helping people who couldn't afford a doctor, started feeling useful again. And Owen poured coffee, listened, held space for the broken and the lost. Merrick's Haven became exactly what its name promised, a haven, a refuge, a place where people could come with their ghosts and their guilt and their grief and know they wouldn't be turned away. Word spread, slowly at first, then faster. People came from all over Tacoma. Veterans, abuse survivors, addicts, the homeless, the hopeless. They all found their way to the small cafe on Pacific Avenue where an old glider pilot poured coffee and remembered a boy named Emile. 3 weeks after Julian's visit, Owen received a letter. The envelope was thin, the handwriting familiar. Owen opened it with trembling hands. "Dear Owen, I wanted to write and tell you that I'm doing better. The nightmares are less frequent. The rage is quieter. I'm spending time with my children again. I'm trying to rebuild what I destroyed. I'm also starting a foundation in Emile's name to help children in conflict zones, to make sure other 14-year-olds don't die in the dark, shot by people who were too scared to ask questions. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if it helps, but it feels like the right way to honor him. Thank you for telling me the truth. Thank you for carrying him all these years. Thank you for remembering. I hope your cafe continues to thrive. I hope you find the peace you deserve." With gratitude, Julian Owen folded the letter carefully and put it in his wallet, right next to a faded photograph of Ellen. He looked up at Emile's picture on the wall. "I won't forget you," he whispered. "I promise." And he never did. December came to Tacoma with ice and darkness. The streets turned slick. The sky stayed grey for days on end. Christmas decorations appeared in shop windows, tired tinsel and blinking lights that felt more desperate than festive. The city hunched against the cold and waited for spring. But inside Merrick's Haven, something was growing. Word had spread about the cafe, not through advertising or social media. Owen wouldn't have known how to use either, but through whispers, through stories passed between people who lived on the margins. A veteran told another veteran, a shelter worker told a client, a woman fleeing abuse told another woman in the same boat. "There's a place on Pacific Avenue," Old guy runs it. Doesn't ask questions, doesn't judge, just pours coffee and listens. By early December, the cafe was full every day, morning, noon, and night. The booths were always occupied. The counter was always crowded. Owen had to order more supplies twice a week. Cassie worked mornings, Jordan worked afternoons. David and Marianne had become unofficial greeters, welcoming newcomers, making them feel safe. Merrick's Haven had become exactly what Owen never planned, a community. But with growth came problems. The first sign came on a Tuesday morning. Owen arrived at 5:30 a.m. to start the coffee, same as always. But when he unlocked the front door, he found something stuck to the glass. A notice, official-looking, printed on city letterhead. Notice of building code violations. Owen's stomach dropped. He pulled the notice off and read it in the dim light of the street lamps. The language was dense, bureaucratic, but the message was clear. Merrick's Haven was operating in violation of multiple city codes. Insufficient fire exits, inadequate electrical wiring, improper commercial kitchen setup, overcrowding beyond stated capacity. At the bottom, in bold, you have 30 days to remedy all violations or face closure and daily fines. Owen stood in the cold, staring at the paper, feeling the world tilt beneath him. 30 days. He went inside and made coffee with shaking hands. Cassie found him sitting at the counter an hour later, the notice spread in front of him. "What's that?" she asked. Owen slid it toward her. She read it, her expression darkening with each line. "Shit," she muttered. "Yeah. Can you fix it? The violations?" Owen did the math in his head. New wiring, fire exits, kitchen upgrades, permits, inspections. He was looking at $20,000 minimum, maybe 30. He had maybe 5,000 in savings. "No," he said quietly. "I can't." Cassie sat down next to him. "There has to be a way." "There isn't. We could fundraise, ask people to donate. The regulars would help." Owen shook his head. "Most of the people who come here don't have money. That's why they come here. Then we figure something else out." "Like what?" Cassie didn't have an answer. Jordan arrived for his shift and saw their faces. "What happened?" Owen showed him the notice. Jordan read it, his expression crumbling. "They can't do this," he said. "This place it's everything, for a lot of people. They can't just shut it down." "They can," Owen said. "And they will." By noon, everyone knew. David sat in his corner booth, the notice on the table in front of him, his face grey. Marianne stood by the counter, arms crossed, jaw tight. A dozen other regulars had gathered, their coffee forgotten, their conversations hushed. "Who reported the violations?" David asked. "Does it matter?" Owen said. "Yeah, it does. Someone made a call. Someone wanted this place shut down." Owen hadn't thought about that. He picked up the notice again, looking for a clue. At the bottom, in small print, report filed by concerned citizen. Inspection conducted by Tacoma Building Department. Anonymous. Deliberate. "Someone wants us gone," Cassie said. "But why?" Jordan asked. Before anyone could answer, the door opened. A man walked in. Mid-40s, expensive suit, perfect hair. He had the look of someone who'd never worried about money, never slept in a shelter, never wondered where his next meal was coming from. He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "Mr. Merrick," he said. Owen stood. "That's me." The man walked over and extended his hand. "Lawrence Garrett, Garrett Development Group. I wanted to introduce myself." Owen didn't take his hand. "What do you want?" Garrett lowered his hand, unfazed. "I represent a development firm that's been acquiring properties in this district. We're planning a major revitalization project, mixed-use residential and commercial. Very exciting, very good for the neighborhood. And I'd like to make you an offer for this property." Owen stared at him. "It's not for sale." "Everything's for sale, Mr. Merrick. It's just a matter of price." Garrett pulled a business card from his pocket and set it on the counter. "I'm prepared to offer you $50,000, cash, immediate close. You could be out by the end of the month. The cafe had gone silent. Everyone was listening. I said it's not for sale, Owen repeated. Garrett's smile thinned. Mr. Merrick, I'm trying to help you. This building is falling apart. You've got code violations piling up. The city's breathing down your neck. You take my offer, you walk away clean. You refuse. You're looking at fines, legal fees, eventually foreclosure. Why make this difficult? Because this isn't just a building, Owen said. It's a haven for people who need one. How touching. Garrett's tone dripped with condescension. But sentiment doesn't pay bills, and it certainly doesn't fix code violations. Did you file the report? Cassie asked suddenly. Did you call the city? Garrett looked at her. I don't know what you're talking about. Bullshit, David said from his booth. You want this place shut down so you can buy it cheap. Garrett's smile disappeared. I suggest you be very careful about what you accuse me of. I'm a businessman making a legitimate offer. What the city does or doesn't do is none of my concern. Get out, Owen said. Excuse me? I said get out. This is my property. You're not welcome here. Garrett's expression hardened. You're making a mistake, Mr. Merrick, a very expensive mistake. I'll take my chances. Garrett picked up his business card from the counter. Offer stands for 72 hours. After that, you're on your own. He looked around at the assembled group, the veterans, the homeless, the broken. Good luck keeping this sinking ship afloat. He walked out. The door closed behind him with a soft click. Owen sat down heavily. His hands were shaking again. Son of a bitch, David muttered. He can't do this, Jordan said. Can he? He already did, Marianne said quietly. The violations are real. The timeline is real. Whether he filed the report or not doesn't matter. We have 30 days. So what do we do? Cassie asked. Everyone looked at Owen. Owen looked at the notice, at the number, 30 days, at the photograph of Emil on the wall, at the faces of the people who'd found refuge here. We fight, he said. That night after the cafe closed, they held a meeting, not just the core group, Cassie, Jordan, David, Marianne, but everyone, every regular who called Merrick's Haven home. 23 people crammed into the small cafe, sitting in booths and on the floor, holding cooling cups of coffee. Owen stood behind the counter. He felt ancient, tired, but he'd survived D-Day. He'd survived 39 years of guilt. He could survive this. Most of you saw the notice, Owen began. The city says we're in violation of building codes. We have 30 days to fix everything, or they shut us down. The fixes cost money we don't have. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. That developer, Garrett, he made an offer. $50,000 for the building. But if I sell, this place is gone. And I'm not selling. A few people applauded. Not many. Most looked too worried to celebrate. So we need a plan, Owen continued. We need to figure out how to raise the money to fix the violations. I'm open to ideas. Silence. Then a woman in the back spoke up. Her name was Teresa, mid-30s, 2 kids, staying at a shelter after leaving an abusive marriage. What if we fundraise, she said. Like a GoFundMe or something. People donate online. I don't know how to do that, Owen admitted. I do, Jordan said. I can set it up. Write the story. Share it. How much do we need? Someone asked. Owen had done the math. 25,000. Minimum. The number hung in the air like a lead weight. That's a lot, David said. I know. What if we don't raise it? Owen didn't have an answer for that. Then we lose. Cassie and people who quietly need this place have nowhere to go. Another silence, heavier this time. Then Marianne stood. I have some savings. Not much, but maybe 3,000. You can have it. I can't take your savings, Owen said. You're not taking it. I'm giving it. This place saved my life, literally. After I left the hospital, I was going to kill myself. I had pills, I had a plan. But I came here first. And Owen sat with me, listened, didn't judge, didn't try to fix me, just was there. So yeah, you can have my savings. Owen's throat tightened. Marianne, I can pitch in too, David said. Not much, maybe 500, but it's something. I'll work extra shifts, Cassie said. Donate my pay. Me too, Jordan added. Others chimed in. Small amounts, $10, 20, 50, people who had almost nothing, offering what little they had. Owen felt something crack open in his chest. You don't have to do this, he said. Yes, we do, Teresa said. Because you did it for us. Jordan set up the fundraiser that night. He took photos of the cafe, wrote a long post explaining what Merrick's Haven was, what it meant to people, why it mattered. He included the story of Owen, the D-Day veteran who opened a cafe for broken people. He included testimonials from regulars. From Cassie, this place gave me the courage to leave my abuser. From David, this place reminded me I'm not alone. From Jordan himself, this place saved me when my own family threw me away. He posted it online and shared it everywhere he could think of. Then they waited. The first day, they raised $300. The second day, $800. By the end of the first week, they'd raised $4,000. It wasn't nothing, but it wasn't close to enough. Owen tried not to lose hope, but the math was brutal. 21,000 to go, 23 days left. Even if donations kept coming at the current rate, they'd be short by 10,000. And the city wasn't flexible. Owen had called the building department to ask for an extension. The answer was polite, but firm. The timeline is the timeline. 30 days from date of notice. No exceptions. On December 15th, a reporter showed up. Young woman, late 20s, notebook and recorder. She'd seen Jordan's fundraiser online and wanted to do a story for the Tacoma News Tribune. Owen was wary. I don't want this to be a pity piece. It's not, the reporter said. Her name was Amanda Chen. It's a story about community, about what happens when people take care of each other. Those stories matter. So Owen let her in. She interviewed him, asked about the war, about D-Day, about Emile, about why he opened the cafe. Owen told her everything, held nothing back. She interviewed Cassie, Jordan, David, Marianne, Teresa, a dozen others. She took photos, the counter, the booths, Emile's photograph on the wall, the notice still taped to the front window. When will the story run? Owen asked. Day after tomorrow, Amanda said. Front page of the local section. I'll make sure people see it. The story ran on December 17th. The headline, D-Day veteran fights to save cafe that's become a lifeline for Tacoma's most vulnerable. It was a good story. Fair. Honest. Amanda Chen had captured something essential about Merrick's Haven, not just what it was, but what it meant. The response was immediate. Donations flooded in. $100, $500, $1,000. People who'd never heard of Merrick's Haven read the story and wanted to help. Local businesses, churches, veteran organizations. By the end of the day, the fundraiser had doubled. $8,000, then $10,000, then $15,000. Owen watched the number climb, barely believing it. People care, Cassie said, looking at the screen over Jordan's shoulder. Yeah, Owen said. I guess they do. But even with the surge, they were still short. 15,000 raised, 10,000 to go, and only 13 days left. On December 20th, Owen received a phone call. Mr. Merrick, this is Colonel James Whitmore, U.S. Army, retired. I saw the article about your cafe. I'm calling from the 82nd Airborne Association. We'd like to help. Owen's hand tightened on the phone. How? We're authorizing an emergency grant of $10,000 for a fellow paratrooper, for one of ours. Owen couldn't speak. Mr. Merrick, you there? I'm here, Owen managed. I don't know what to say. Say you'll keep fighting. That's what we do. The grant arrived the next day. Wire transfer, $10,000. Combined with the fundraiser, they had $25,000, exactly what they needed. Owen hired contractors immediately. They worked fast, rewired the building, installed new fire exits, upgraded the kitchen, filed the permits, scheduled the inspections. It was chaos. The cafe had to close for a week while the work was done. Regulars gathered outside, waiting, watching. A few brought tools and helped where they could. David, who'd worked construction in his 20s, pitched in. Jordan painted walls. Cassie organized everything, making lists, checking progress, keeping everyone on track. Marianne set up a makeshift aid station on the sidewalk. Coffee and sandwiches for the workers. First aid for anyone who needed it. It felt like a barn raising. A community coming together to save something that mattered. On December 29th, one day before the deadline, the city inspector came. Owen met him at the door, tried to read his expression. Couldn't. The inspector walked through the cafe slowly, checked the wiring, the exits, the kitchen, made notes on a clipboard. Said nothing. Owen's heart hammered in his chest. Finally, the inspector looked up. "You pass." Owen exhaled. "We pass? All violations remedied. You're in compliance." The inspector signed a form and handed it to Owen. "You're good to reopen." Owen took the form with shaking hands, stared at it. The words blurred. "Thank you," he whispered. The inspector nodded. "Merry Christmas, Mr. Merrick." That night, they reopened. Every regular showed up. The cafe was packed. People laughing, crying, hugging. It felt like a celebration, like a victory. Owen stood behind the counter and poured coffee, and felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Cassie came up beside him. "We did it." "Yeah," Owen said, "we did. Garrett's not going to give up, you know. He'll try something else." "I know. So what do we do?" Owen looked around the cafe, at the people who'd become family, at the place they'd saved together. "We keep fighting," he said. "Same as always." Cassie smiled. "Same as always." But Owen's relief was short-lived. 3 days into the new year, he received another letter. This one wasn't from the city. It was from a law firm. Garrett Development Group, Vizo and Merrick. Notice of intent to file lawsuit. Owen opened it with cold dread. The letter claimed that Merrick's Haven was operating as an unlicensed homeless shelter, that it was creating a public nuisance, that it was decreasing property values in the neighborhood, that it was violating zoning ordinances. Garrett was suing, not just for closure, but for damages, $100,000. Owen sat at the counter and read the letter 3 times. Then he folded it carefully and put it in his pocket. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. January in Tacoma felt colder than any winter Owen remembered. The lawsuit notice sat on the counter of Merrick's Haven like a bomb, waiting to detonate. Owen had read it so many times he'd memorized every word. Public nuisance, unlicensed shelter, zoning violations, $100,000 in damages. He couldn't afford a lawyer. He couldn't afford to fight this, and Garrett knew it. The cafe stayed open. Owen didn't tell anyone about the lawsuit at first. He poured coffee, made soup, listened to stories, pretended everything was fine. But Cassie noticed. She always noticed. "What's wrong?" she asked on a grey Tuesday morning. Owen slid the letter across the counter. She read it. Her face went pale, then red. "That son of a bitch. Yeah, he can't do this. He's doing it. So we fight back." Owen shook his head. "With what? I don't have money for a lawyer. Even if I did, lawsuits take months, years. The legal fees alone would bankrupt me. He knows that. He's counting on it." Cassie slammed her hand on the counter. "So what? We just give up? Let him win?" "I don't know what else to do." She stared at him. "You survived D-Day. You survived 39 years of guilt. You survived code violations and fundraising and all of it. You're telling me some asshole in a suit is going to beat you? He's not just some asshole. He's a developer with money and lawyers and time. I'm a 64-year-old man with a cafe and a mortgage. You're also the man who gave me a home when I had nowhere to go, who gave Jordan a family when his own threw him away, who gave David and Marianne and Teresa and dozens of other people a place to exist without judgment." Her voice cracked. "You saved us, Owen. Now let us save you." Owen looked at her. This woman who'd walked into his cafe 3 months ago with a black eye and a broken spirit. This woman who now stood tall and fierce and unafraid. How? He asked quietly. I don't know yet, but we'll figure it out. Together. That night they held another meeting. This time 30 people showed up. Word had spread about the lawsuit. People were angry, scared, determined. Owen stood behind the counter and told them the truth. All of it. The lawsuit, the damages, the timeline. The fact that he couldn't afford to fight. So Garrett wins, someone said. A young man named Marcus, veteran, Afghanistan, PTSD. He just gets to take this place from us. Not if we stop him, Cassie said. How? We fight, not with lawyers, not with money, with people, with attention, with noise. David leaned forward in his booth. What are you thinking? A protest, Cassie said. We make this public. We show Tacoma what Garrett's trying to do. We show them what this place means. We get media coverage. We make it too expensive for him to keep pushing. You think that'll work? Marianne asked. I don't know, but it's better than doing nothing. Jordan spoke up. I can handle social media, get the story out there, tag local news, tag the mayor's office, make it viral. I can reach out to veterans groups, David said. Get bodies here, get attention. I'll contact churches, Teresa added, shelters, service organizations, people who understand what this place does. Owen listened to them plan, watched them organize, felt something fierce and fragile growing in his chest. Hope. Dangerous, terrifying hope. Okay, he said. Let's do it. They planned the protest for January 15th, 2 weeks away. Enough time to spread the word. Not enough time for Garrett to shut them down. Jordan created event pages, wrote posts, shared stories, tagged everyone. Save Merrick's Haven started trending locally. David called every veterans organization in Washington state. Most said they'd send people. Some said they'd send dozens. Marianne reached out to nurses' unions, social workers, therapists, people who worked with trauma and understood what Merrick's Haven represented. Cassie coordinated everything, made lists, assigned tasks, kept people focused. Owen just kept the cafe open, kept pouring coffee, kept being the steady center while everything spun around him. But Garrett wasn't idle. 3 days before the protest, Owen received another letter. This one from Garrett's lawyers. A motion for an emergency injunction. They were asking a judge to shut down Merrick's Haven immediately, pending the lawsuit. The hearing was scheduled for January 14th, the day before the protest. Owen showed the letter to Cassie. Can they do that? She asked. They're trying. So what happens at the hearing? I show up. They present their case. The judge decides. If he grants the injunction, we're closed. Immediately. Protest doesn't matter. Fundraising doesn't matter. We're done. Cassie's jaw tightened. Then you need a lawyer. I can't afford. I'll call legal aid. There are organizations that do pro bono work. Someone will help. She made calls. Dozens of them. Most organizations were overbooked, underfunded, couldn't take new cases. But on the evening of January 12th, Cassie got a call back. Mr. Merrick, this is Sarah Kwan. I'm an attorney with Northwest Justice Project. I understand you need representation. Owen's heart leaped. Yes, but I can't pay. I know. That's why we exist. I've read about your case, about your cafe. I'd like to help. Why? Sarah was quiet for a moment. Because my brother was homeless for 3 years. He had schizophrenia, no family support, no resources. He died on the streets in Seattle, froze to death. If there'd been a place like Merrick's Haven, a place that didn't require paperwork or sobriety or explanations, maybe he'd still be alive. So yeah, I want to help. Owen's voice shook. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We've got 48 hours to prepare. Let's get to work. Sarah Kwan arrived at the cafe the next morning with a briefcase and a no-nonsense expression. She was mid-30s, Vietnamese-American, with short hair and sharp eyes. She sat at the counter with Owen and went through everything. The building history, the code violations, the fundraiser, the lawsuit, the injunction motion. Garrett's argument is simple, Sarah explained. He's claiming you're operating an unlicensed shelter, that you're violating zoning laws, that you're creating a public nuisance. He's asking the judge to shut you down immediately to prevent further harm. And our argument, Owen asked, that you're operating a cafe, a legal business with proper permits, that people gathering here doesn't make it a shelter, that Garrett's real motive is financial. He wants your property and he's using the legal system to get it. Will that work? Sarah met his eyes. I don't know. Garrett has expensive lawyers, deep pockets, political connections. We're fighting uphill, but we have something he doesn't. What? The truth, and a judge who might actually care about it. The hearing was at 2 p.m. on January 14th at Tacoma Municipal Court. Owen wore the same blazer he'd worn to career day, the one with the threadbare elbows. He left the medal at home. Cassie, Jordan, David, Marianne, and Teresa came with him. They sat in the gallery, silent and tense. Garrett was there, flanked by 3 lawyers in expensive suits. He didn't look at Owen, didn't acknowledge him, just sat with perfect posture, looking bored. The judge entered, Honorable Patricia Yamamoto, 60s, Japanese-American, with reading glasses and an expression that gave nothing away. This is a hearing on an emergency motion for preliminary injunction, Judge Yamamoto said. Mr. Garrett's counsel, you may proceed. Garrett's lead attorney stood. His name was Richard Holbrook. Silver hair, perfect teeth, voice like warm honey. Your Honor, this is a straightforward case. Mr. Merrick is operating an unlicensed homeless shelter in a commercially zoned district. He's violating zoning ordinances. He's creating a public nuisance. Transients congregate there at all hours. Property values in the area have declined. My client has attempted to resolve this amicably, but Mr. Merrick has refused. We're asking the court to shut down this operation immediately. He presented documents, photos of people gathered outside the cafe, testimony from neighboring businesses complaining about loitering, zoning maps, ordinance citations. It was polished, professional, devastating. Then Sarah stood. Your Honor, opposing counsel is mischaracterizing what Merrick's Haven is. It's not a shelter, it's a cafe, a legal business with all proper permits. People gather there because it's a welcoming place. That's not illegal, that's commerce. She presented her own documents, the business license, the health department permit, the recent city inspection showing compliance with all codes. Mr. Garrett's true motive is financial, Sarah continued. He wants this property for a development project. Mr. Merrick refused to sell. Now Mr. Garrett is weaponizing the legal system to force him out. That's not justice. That's intimidation. Holbrook stood. Objection. Counsel is impugning my client's motives without evidence. Sustained, Judge Yamamoto said. Ms. Kwan, stick to the facts. Sarah nodded. The fact is, Merrick's Haven is in compliance with all applicable laws. There's no legal basis for this injunction. The fact, Holbrook countered, is that Mr. Merrick is running a de facto shelter. He admits to housing people in the upstairs apartment. He admits to serving people who are homeless, addicted, or otherwise marginalized. That's a shelter, Your Honor. Call it whatever you want, but that's what it is. Is that true, Ms. Kwan? The judge asked. Is Mr. Merrick housing people upstairs? Sarah hesitated. 2 people live in the upstairs apartment. They work for the cafe in exchange for housing. That's a legitimate employment arrangement. Do they have formal employment contracts? Not written contracts, but... So Mr. Merrick is housing individuals without formal employment documentation. Judge Yamamoto made a note. Continue. Owen's stomach sank. This was going badly. Holbrook pressed his advantage. Your Honor, this is exactly the problem. Mr. Merrick has good intentions, I'm sure, but good intentions don't supersede zoning laws. If every business owner could claim they're running a cafe while actually operating a shelter, zoning would be meaningless. Sarah stood again. Your Honor, may I call a witness? Judge Yamamoto looked surprised. This is an injunction hearing, not a trial. I understand, but I believe testimony would clarify the nature of Merrick's Haven and why shutting it down would cause irreparable harm. The judge considered. Brief testimony. You have 10 minutes. Sarah looked at Owen, nodded. Owen stood and approached the witness stand. His knee clicked with every step. His hands shook. He was sworn in and sat down. Sarah approached. Mr. Merrick, please tell the court what Merrick's Haven is. Owen took a breath. It's a cafe. I serve coffee, soup and toast. That's it. And who comes to your cafe? Everyone. Veterans, nurses, students, people who are homeless, people who are struggling, people who just need a quiet place to sit. Why do they come? Owen thought about it. Because they need somewhere they don't have to explain themselves, somewhere they don't have to be anything other than who they are. Mr. Holbrook characterized your cafe as a public nuisance. Do you agree with that? No. Why not? Because the people who come to my cafe aren't nuisances. They're human beings. They're struggling, yeah. But that doesn't make them problems to be solved. It makes them people who need a place to exist. Sarah nodded. Thank you. No further questions. Holbrook stood. Mr. Merrick, how many people live in your upstairs apartment? 2. Do they pay rent? They work for the cafe, but they don't pay rent. No. And you serve free coffee to many customers, correct? If they can't afford it, yes. So you're providing free food and housing. That sounds like a shelter, doesn't it? Owen met his eyes. No, it sounds like kindness. Holbrook smirked. Kindness doesn't exempt you from zoning laws, Mr. Merrick. Maybe it should. The gallery erupted in applause. Judge Yamamoto banged her gavel. Order! Counsel! Control your witness! Sorry, Your Honor, Sarah said. But Owen wasn't done. He looked at the judge. Your Honor, can I say something? Judge Yamamoto studied him. This is highly irregular. I know, but please, just give me a minute. She sighed. 1 minute. Owen stood. His whole body ached. 64 years of injuries and exhaustion. But he stood tall. I'm a D-Day veteran, he began. I was a glider pilot with the 82nd Airborne. I landed behind enemy lines on June 6, 1944. A lot of good men died that day. I survived. And for 39 years, I carried guilt about that. About the choices I made, about the people I couldn't save. He paused. The courtroom was silent. 6 months ago, I opened Merrick's Haven because I needed somewhere to